Hello, lovely writers, and welcome to another Writerly Wednesday. I wanted to talk today about something that really challenges a lot of writers, and this may even be part of what becomes your procrastination, and that is to structure or not to structure. So if you are primarily a pantser, that means writing by the seat of your pants, you might start your story with an idea and you just start writing and just see where it takes you. And this can work for a great number of writers at the beginning. But for many, many, many writers, eventually they get stuck. And because they've had no structure, no exact idea of where they're going to end up or where they're going to take their character or characters from one place to another, when they get stuck, they don't know how to get out of it. And so I worked with a lot of writers around that. On the other side of things are people who are die-hard plotters, and they may use spreadsheets and they may use a ton of plotting, and I'm going to mention a few things that you might be able to recognize in a minute, and that's okay as well. Part of the process of writing, though, is the joy of writing, the joy of finding out something new as a writer that you didn't even know in your characters. And that's pretty hard to get to sometimes if you have plotted everything out to the nth degree. And that's why I am a big proponent of some structure, but not too much. Give yourself enough of a foundation to keep you going during each of your writerly sessions without siphoning off all of the magic and discovery and the fun that you as the writer may get to have. Does that make sense? So when we're talking about structure, you might be wondering, well, what kind of structure is out there? Maybe you haven't done a lot of exploring yet. So there is the 3-act structure, which is introduction, confrontation, and resolution. That can be fairly successful. For me, that's still a little bit too open-ended, and I would want just a little bit more in there. You've got 5, 7, 21, 24, 40, or more plot points, depending on what you're writing. Some screenwriters like to have maybe 40 plot points in Act 1 of their multi-act creation. That might be more fun after you've written your first draft and then you're going through and editing and making sure that you're hitting all the beats that you want to. Otherwise, as you could guess, I think that 21 and more are too many plot points to have to worry about right at the beginning. There's also Anne Lamott, who I love, and she has something that's called ABDCE, which is action, background, development, climax, and then ending. And that jibes a little bit with what I like to propose that writers do, which is a 5 plot point structure. Over and above that, number 1, you have to know where you want your character to end up. So I always suggest reverse engineering your story. Start with where you want them to end. It can change by the end of the story, but I want you to have an idea, not just, oh, this is this funny thing I was thinking about. Isn't that a great idea for a story? Let me explore. Yes, and you're wondering about it because you have a feeling about where you would like it to go. You're writing a book, a story, a short story, because you have a message you want to say. You want to say something to the world about how the world works, or how your heart works, or how souls work, or whatever it is. You have a statement to make, and that is your ending. So we're not necessarily getting really explicit about exactly what the ending is, but we do want to have, or leave rather, the reader with a feeling, a message. What is that? That's the end. So first we have the opening scene. So that was the closing scene, right? So then you can go 180 degrees back to the opening scene, which would be virtually the opposite. Your protagonist is going to be in the exact opposite spot. Then you've got the inciting incident. Then you have the start of the messy middle. And I'm a little bit funny here. The messy middle isn't one plot point, of course. It's multiple scenes. But essentially we're ratcheting up tension and we're giving the character more and more to think about. Then you have the final battle, and then you have the closing scene. I'm purposely not going into it too much here because I don't want to overwhelm you. There is so much out there on the internet, but I wanted to give you this message. It's okay if you don't have the insight to 40 plot points at the start of your writing. And if you're naturally a pantser, but you find yourself unable or maybe unwilling to finish a story and that's really frustrating you, this might be the key to finally finishing a story and doing it in a way that feels really good for you. Give yourself a little bit of structure, but not too much. We want to keep that magic in there. I would love to hear from you. How have you approached your writing before? Have you implemented structure? What structure has worked for you? Or do you find it all too confusing? I would love to continue the conversation in the comments. As always, I can't wait to see you next week. Join me on next week's Writerly Wednesday. And until then, bye.